Hey everybody, it's Jason McLaren with the Leadership Loading Podcast, and today we're talking about leadership in your next career or your final legacy with Kip Brooks from Paragon Franchise Consulting. Kip is a avid hiker, gym rat, and occasional froyo enthusiast, just like myself. He's lived and traveled all over the world and currently hails from North Carolina with his partner Julie, their two sons Jaden and Lincoln, and he's got a background in restaurants, automotive, catastrophe management, and mindset performance and coaching. So should have some good conversation here with my background being in some of that also. Due to the growing up and coming struggle in his entrepreneurial family, Kip fell in love with franchising instantly when he realized that it offered a solution to every challenge that he'd faced. And these struggles were compounded after the untimely passing of his father, and has left his mom a widow with 3 children and a 15-year-old. Kip feeling lost in his role as a man in the house. So if you or someone you know is struggling as an entrepreneur, we're going to talk about some of that today. So Kip, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, so very detailed background there. Some of that cross references with me and how I started Go Heroes and the Leadership Loading podcast I lost my brother untimely, and then kind of had to climb the ladder, which is kind of how we got here today with Go Heroes and Leadership Loading. So tell us a little bit more about your background in the business side and some of your leadership roles coming up to now.
Yeah, it was, being raised in a family business, I was told every day of my life what my path was, right? And one thing that's not in there is the family business burned down 12 days before my dad actually passed away. So that was a very transformational summer. I discovered myself to be very lost in direction and not knowing where to go. So stayed in the family business was in restaurants. Stayed in that industry for quite a few years, and then just realized, man, the whole reason I was here is because I was born into it, and that was it. And it was just expected of me. So started going out and exploring other things and trying to figure out who I was and where my skill set was, which was very limited because it was all around restaurant. But the thing it did teach me is I grew up around people constantly, and I was always observing. I was bussing tables, helping wait tables, cooking, cleaning, the whole thing, whatever was needed. So and started at a very young age. So I realized that I knew people. So, I went into sales, went into all sorts of things, and they gave me I kept getting recruited for all sorts of different positions and gigs, and that just helped me enhance that skill set and get to know multiple businesses and see, behind the scenes, and also get to know people the same way.
Definitely. I think I've heard before that if you don't know anything about business or you're getting into the business, working at a restaurant is probably the best way to start, because that forces you kind of to get involved with people and read people.
Yeah, and it definitely teaches you a respect for customer service as well, and also just seeing the difference a good customer journey, will make in the interaction and relationship with them. And it's amazing. It still dawns on me quite regularly, like little things that I picked up from working in a restaurant as a kid or as a teenager, and it's like, oh man, it's just learned so much more than I realized I did.
Yeah, like you said, customer journey. I didn't learn that until I actually started business school. The whole customer journey and sales funnels and all that kind of stuff. And that's the key, the basics to starting a business, and is identifying those things before you start. So, so you were 15 when the business burned down. Your dad passed.
Yep.
And so, did you jump straight into the business and start running it, or helping your mom run it?
There was no life insurance policy, no real business insurance or anything. It was always one of those things, going to handle it later. And so my mom took a little bit to kind of regroup. She knew she couldn't go back into the demands of the restaurant they had before. It was there was a bar attached to it, so they did lunch, dinner, and then there was a little bit of a later shift. And so she took that, leveraged it to get a smaller little diner, breakfast, lunch joint inside of a business park, a little industrial area. And so my brother and I, I was still in school, so I would go there with him, start at like 5 a.m. and sometimes 4, prep for the day. And then I didn't really care about school much because my whole life I was told I was taking over family business. So I was like, I don't need much of an education. So I would skip all the classes that really didn't matter. And then, so I would stay at work as late as I could and then go to class for what was required for graduation. And then come back, or later on, I had other jobs because I was working for the family business for free. Finally got a raise up to like $50 a week. But it wasn't enough to survive on or help the family with. So, just continued in that for a while. Then she got to a place where she's like, this just isn't me. And then she went back to school in her 50s and started her life over. And so then I was really lost. My brother went off into the military. That was my plan. And then because of some medical mysteries from when I was younger, I couldn't get accepted. So then I was lost again because that was my way out. And so I went back into restaurants because I knew nothing else. And then started working in body shops and dealerships and started trying everything. Just trying to figure out like, what could I possibly do? And so there was a lot of fumbling along that path. And then I don't think I really dived into anything. It just kind of fell into it, applied a bunch of places, and wherever I would get a yes from. And the one thing people kept telling me was just my conversation and my ability to build rapport. They would see something there, and it started giving me I rose to management in each job I had, whether it was from dishwasher up to restaurant manager or production manager in a body shop or anything. And I kept getting that brought to my attention that I was good with people, and I knew how to communicate with them. I knew how to, get them to work together as a team. And also I could kind of just see, the overall outcome and how to get there. And so over the years that led into coaching, consulting, and just kept going with it.
So you said you had to fumble up the ladder, right? As
Yeah.
you're going through your life, and I think a lot of us can relate to that. When did you identify like, hey, I can do this as a coach, or I can, start consulting or get my own franchise? When did that happen?
Honestly, the coaching came about when, I started going to personal development seminars when I realized I was going to be a parent. I was like, all right, I need to, level up here and get some more momentum going, get my head right, learn how to, learn how to raise kids, and teach them the things that I didn't know. So I was going to a lot of personal development, doing a lot of self-work, hiring coaches and things. And then all of a sudden, a coach I knew came to me and was like, I want you to take over this client. I've been working with them for like 3 years. I don't really have anything else I can do for them. They need someone else, and I believe it's you. And it's like, it kind of threw me for a loop because I didn't see myself in that regard. And so again, like everything else, it just kind of I fell into it and fumbled my way through it. It wasn't pretty at first, but it really helped me kind of hone those skills. And then spent several years in that. And then actually the way the franchise consulting came in was when Julie brought it to my attention. We were actually looking at investing in a franchise. She was going to invest. I was going to help her run it and build it. And then found out this consultant world existed of helping people choose the right one, and based off their values and business profile and lifestyle desires and all of that. And I was always the anti-franchise person. I was anti-corporate, anti-authority. I've been all sorts of things like that in my life. And when I started actually learning about franchise, and when she had brought that world into my awareness more, started realizing that how many things it would solve. Like you were talking about in the bio, it was like just all the struggles I saw my parents have, and especially my mom after my dad was gone, and because he was the only mentor she had in that business, and he just learned all of his through, School of Hard Knocks. And it's like they would try something and just grind it until they either it broke and they knew it didn't work, or it would start to work. And just wasted a lot of time because he came up streets of Chicago, didn't really trust a lot of people. And, they had the work ethic, they had the mentality and the dedication and all that. They just didn't have the system. It wasn't either one of their strong suits. And it's like, if they would have had that system in place, things would have just clicked for them. And myself as well, and so many business I started myself was just try this, figure it out. And it's like, man, if I would have just had that roadmap laid out for me, it would have just taken away so much of the stress of the stuff I didn't like doing anyway, the stuff I wasn't good at. It's like, that's what it would have brought. And so it just all kind of clicked. It's like, yeah, that's the gig. That's the next, evolution and in my journey there. And it's been a blast ever since.
Yeah, I think that franchising basically, like you said, it helps you not have to stumble, right? You've already got the roadmap by whoever the franchise holder is. That's kind of what we do at Go Heroes for veterans and first responders trying to get into a civilian career because they've never done that, and so we kind of have that roadmap for them. But yeah, on the if you're trying to start a business, I think franchising can help, especially if you don't have that background in business and you've never started a business before. You can kind of piggyback off that franchise and go forward from there.
Yeah, it really does. And that's one of the things we help people figure out is, okay, we look at their strengths and then we look at the things they don't enjoy doing and things they might not be good at or have any clue about. And it's like, well, there are franchises that offer support in all these different areas. Let's look at that. Let's get the best recipe for success, right? And especially with military, it's like, how to work a process and do it to, an extraordinary level of excellence in so many ways. It's like, this is going to be a piece of cake. And then there's so many franchises that offer discounts to veterans and military personnel. It's like, it's such a beautiful option to have and look at. Especially like you brought up, not having training other than like one industry that we're in, whether it's military or, sales or whatever. And something I really love about franchising is like you can get to any point of your life, and it's like instead of having to go back to school like my mom did at 52 years old, it's being able to change industry without having to go back to school. It's like you can pick it, and I mean you can literally buy a franchise for an urgent care and be in charge of these teams of doctors and nurses and having never been to med school. It offers a lot of different opportunities that I was never aware any of us had.
Yeah, I think that speaks volumes. My first like business was while I was in the military. I tried to start a car detailing business because I was looking at the margins and all that stuff, and like, oh, it's good margins, all that. And I was like, I hate detailing cars though. So, it didn't work out. But if you can have a coach like yourself kind of go through all those hurdles beforehand, that way you're not dropping, your money and time into a franchise that you're not going to succeed in. I think that's beneficial.
Yeah, exactly. So many people look at it just like that, very much the same way we enter in any job or even relationship or whatever. It's like there's an agreement and then it just moves forward, and we help people look at it. It's like, well, think long term. Let's look at the lifestyle it's going to bring, and why are you interested in this? Is it too much focus on the money, or is it not enough focus on the back end? And a lot of people go looking for a gym because they like working out, but it's like, well, once you take some of your hobbies and make them your lifestyle, you don't like it as a hobby anymore. So it's like, let's look at all that, and we really pride ourselves on helping them think of what they're not thinking about, because there's too much other, you're working your day-to-day life at whatever career you're in now. You might have family. It's like there's so many things that your attention is being drawn towards. There's just not the time to go through the thousands of options that there are for a franchise or business opportunity. And it's like let us do that. That's what we do, and bring you a few, really nice options to start choosing from, instead of having to spend all this time doing research to the point to where you're exhausted and it's like, man, I don't even like the idea anymore of going into business for myself.
Definitely. So Kip, how tell us about Paragon Franchise Consulting and kind of how we can get a hold of you there.
Yeah, it's paragonfranchiseconsulting.com. My email is kip@paragonfranchisingconsulting.com. We're on Facebook and LinkedIn. It's the main other platforms, but you can get a hold of me directly right through there. I see any message that comes through there, I will see Julie, or I will see. We're very interactive with that. And just shoot me an email directly. Any questions at all. The service we offer is complimentary, never cost our clients a dime. We handle that later with the franchisors. So our service is complimentary, but priceless. I say we just really want to help. This is something that would have saved us in our own journeys a whole lot of headaches in the past, and definitely, like I say, my family story and so many other people I've met along the way.
All right, we'll put all that in the show notes below so everybody can get a hold of you.
Absolutely.
Well, Kip, thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for your time today, and we'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Sounds great. Thank you so much.
There are thousands of leadership and management podcasts to choose from. We're glad you chose the Leadership Loading Podcast, a Go Heroes production. If you'd like to support Go Heroes Inc., visit www.goheroes.org. And with that, it's time to wrap up today's show. Thank you so much for listening. We sincerely hope you liked it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this podcast with your family and friends. Let's all grow together. Thanks for listening to the Leadership Loading Podcast. Leadership Inspired.